Have you ever wanted to ruin someone who broke your heart, but still look like the good person? Be honest, if you could destroy their reputation and have a crowd clap and call you brave, would you be tempted? Today I want to tell you a story about someone who did almost exactly that. She turned heartbreak into art, then she turned art into revenge, and then revenge started to feel like a religion. If you stay with me to the end, you might start to see your own reactions to drama and scandals in a very different light. So let us drop you right where everything explodes. The room is hot from too many bodies, perfume, sweat, and cheap wine. Phones are up, screens glow, people whisper and laugh and pretend they are not staring. In the middle of a white gallery wall, there is a huge painting that stops people in their tracks. At first it looks abstract, wild strokes of deep red, sickly gold, and gray that feels like a dirty storm. But if you stand in front of it for a moment, a face slowly appears. It is a man, handsome but tired, his eyes full of something you cannot name, and the longer you look the more uncomfortable you feel. Next to the painting, there is a small label with a title. The title is simple, only 2 words. It says Stolen Story. The artist's name is Mara. Right now, in this crowded room, Mara is pressed back into a corner with a plastic cup in her hand, watching strangers pick apart the worst relationship of her life.
They think this is entertainment.
Her voice is quiet, but the anger behind it is not.
They think it is powerful.
The man next to her, the gallery owner Jonas, smiles in that tired way people in the art world smile when money walks into the room.
You see that waiting list, my friend? If this is revenge, it is also rent and bills paid for the next year.
Mara does not answer. She just watches as a woman in a designer coat leans in toward the painting and whispers to her friend.
I swear that looks just like Ali from those essays. You remember him, right?
The friend laughs, and the laughter has that sharp edge that gossip always has. By the time a lawyer sends Mara an email asking if this counts as defamation, the painting already has a buyer, a hashtag, and a small army of angry fans in the comments. This is where the story seems to start, with fame and drama and a man exposed on a wall, but the real beginning is much quieter. To see how revenge became a show and why people loved it so much, we need to step back a little, into a small flat and a tired woman who felt invisible. Before the crowds and the headlines, Mara lived in a rented flat that always smelled faintly of coffee grounds and turpentine. She worked part-time at a cafe, poured milk into cups, smiled on cue, and came home late with sore feet and paint on her fingers. Her canvases leaned against the walls like patient friends, half-finished, waiting for someone to really see them. She had been painting since she was a child, when no one listened at home and the only safe place was the blank page. Her parents were not monsters, just busy, distracted, and clumsy with feelings. Mara learned early that you can tell the truth with colors and shapes when no one wants to hear it in words. The problem was simple and brutal. The world did not care. She hung her work in small shows that no one posted about. Sometimes she stood near her own paintings and heard people walk past without even slowing down. Years of this wear you down in a quiet way, not in one big blow, but in small daily cuts. Then Ili arrived. Ili was a curator, a critic, and one of those men who can make any room feel like it revolves around him.
Your work feels honest. That is rare.
That was one of the first things he'd ever said to her when he saw her small corner of a group show. He stood in front of her painting for longer than anyone else all night.
You are not trying to impress anyone. You are just telling the truth. It is brave.
No one had ever used that word about her, brave, not for her art and not for her life. He asked questions, real ones, about why she chose that shade of blue, about the shape of the hands in the corner. He did not look at his phone while she answered. For a woman used to being background noise, that kind of attention feels like a spotlight and a warm blanket at the same time. Sunili was everywhere in her days. He came to the cafe, sat in the corner with a book, and stayed until her shift ended.
Come on, you cannot waste all this on Latte phone. Let us work on a real show for you.
He said it with an easy smile that made it sound simple. He started coming over at night, bringing wine and stories about important people in the art world. Mara showed him her sketchbooks, the raw ones full of half-formed images and private notes. He asked about the painful memories behind certain drawings, and she told him more than she had told anyone in years.
We can use this. You know, your pain has shape, it has value.
That sentence should have been a warning, but when you are starved and someone offers you bread, you do not stop to test it. Their relationship was messy and intense. Illy could be tender and excited about her work one week, and distant and critical the next.
You are too attached to this piece. It needs editing. Let me fix the concept.
At first she was grateful because some of his notes were sharp and useful. He introduced her to people, dropped her name in conversations, and told her she could go far if she trusted him. Slowly, something shifted. Ideas that started in her notebook came out of his mouth at parties and were called his. He took credit in small ways, a phrase here, a gesture there, always wrapped in flattery.
We are a team. There is no me and you. There is just us.
It is funny how often people say there is no me and you right before they take more than their share. The breaking point came with a sketchbook. One night, after a fight about how much of her work should be in his upcoming show, she left a stack of books on the table and went to bed exhausted. When she woke up, one of the sketchbooks was gone, the one with the oldest rust stuff, the one full of drawings based on childhood memories and on stories she had never told in full. Illy said he had borrowed it for inspiration, but he did not ask. A few weeks later, his big solo show opened. She stood in a crowded gallery holding a cheap plastic cup and watched as pieces of her soul hung on the walls under his name. The themes, the images, even some lines from the notes had been turned into wall text.
He is so brave to show such private pain.
She heard a woman say that, and something inside her went very quiet. Illy thanked her in a tiny credit line at the back of the catalog, a small mention that made her anger feel petty if she complained.
We made this together. You should be proud.
He said it that night when she tried to bring it up. He kissed her forehead, then answered a message while she stood there. He did not see her face in that moment, but the anger he had planted there would grow into something he could not control. That night, when she finally got home, Mara did not cry. She sat on the floor in front of a blank canvas and poured everything she could not say into it. She painted Illy, but not the Illy that other people saw. On the canvas he was made of small stolen pieces, other people's sentences, borrowed stories, and smiles that did not reach his eyes. She hid tiny details from their life together inside the image, a book cover here, a broken glass there, a door that was always open when it should have been closed. The painting was not flattering and not kind. It was honest in a way that scared even her.
No one will ever see this.
That was what she told herself when she put down the brush. But the thing about rage is that it does not like to stay private. Later that week, after a long shift at the cafe, she snapped a photo of part of the painting. She did not show the whole thing, only his eyes and a fragment of his jaw, and the faint outline of a hand holding a mask. She posted it on her small art account with a simple caption.
For the man who taught me that love can be plagiarism.
She stared at it for a minute, thumb hovering over the delete button. Then she locked her phone and left it on the table. When she checked it again, the numbers shocked her. Her post had spread far beyond her usual handful of likes. People were commenting fast, sharing their own stories. Some said things like this.
This feels like my ex. He stole my work and my time, and then called me dramatic. I do not know who this is about, but thank you for painting what I could not say.
A few people recognized the style from Millie's show and started to connect dots.
Is this about the curator who keeps writing about other people's trauma? Because if it is, I have stories.
Rumors started to move faster than she could read them. For the first time in her life, Mara was not invisible online. Her anger had found an audience, and audiences are very hungry. A few days later, she got a message from Jonas.
I run a small gallery. I saw your painting. I think there is a whole show in this.
She almost ignored him. She had heard big talk before, but he kept it simple.
I will not put anyone else's name on your work. You will have control, and I think people are ready to look at this kind of thing.
That last part hooked her. Ready to look, not just ready to watch. She agreed to meet him. Jonas was older, with kind eyes and the tired posture of a man who has carried too many canvases up too many stairs.
Yes, something sharp here, it hurts, but in a good way. People feel seen.
He said that while standing in front of the Illy painting in her small studio.
What if we built a show around this? Breakups, betrayal, but told from your side, not from the side of the usual golden boys.
Mara hesitated. Part of her felt sick at the idea of hanging her pain on walls for strangers again. Another part of her, the part that had watched Lee take credit without shame, wanted to push back.
If I do this, the names stay off the walls. I decide what goes in and what stays out.
You call the shots. I handle the rent and the lights.
That was their deal. Mara started to paint with a new kind of focus. She did not just paint Lee, she painted old lovers, old friends, people who had chipped away at her sense of worth. She did not use their names, but she buried their habits and their little crimes inside the images. One painting showed a smiling mouth made of apologies that never meant anything. Another showed a dinner table with plates stacked on only one side. Each piece was a small trial, a case presented to an invisible jury. The show was called Clean Break. On opening night, the line for the door went around the block. People came ready to see someone else's mess and maybe find pieces of their own. Inside the gallery, the air buzzed with that strange mix of sympathy and thrill that always comes with public pain. Some visitors walked slowly, reading every label and staring in silence. Others treated it like a theme park, pointing, laughing, and taking pictures. One young woman stood frozen in front of the painting of the smiling mouth.
I feel like you broke into my last relationship and took a photo.
Her voice shook when she finally turned to Mara.
Thank you, I thought I was alone in this.
Her name was Ray, and she would not stay just a face in the crowd. Later that night, Ray wrote to Mara.
Your show made me feel less crazy. My ex said I made everything up, but your pictures look like my memories.
Messages like that poured in. People called Mara brave, honest, and a lot of other words no one had used for her before. Her anger started to feel not just justified, but holy. Of course, the internet did what the internet always does to anything that hits a nerve. It turned it into a trend. Soon people were posting their own stories under pictures of her work. They called her Saint of Breakups, Angel of Revenge, and other dramatic names that sounded half joking and half serious. Some fans started a page dedicated only to her art, sharing every new sketch she posted. In the comments, they told each other their secrets, their worst nights, their ugliest fights. Mara read them all at first. She cried, she nodded, she felt less alone. But then the tone started to shift. Requests began to arrive.
Can you paint my ex? He cheated on me with my best friend. I want him to feel what I felt.
There is this influencer who pretends to care about mental health while abusing staff. You should expose him in your next series.
A businessman wrote.
I will pay double your usual price if you do a piece about my rival. I will send you details. His scandals will sell, and it will help your career.
Mara stared at that message for a long time. Up until now, she had only painted people who had hurt her directly. She had been the witness and the victim, using her canvas as a kind of courtroom. Now strangers wanted to hire her as a weapon. She told herself she would say no. Then the rent came due and Jonas called with news.
We have a chance to go bigger. I have collectors asking when your next show is. If you take 1 or 2 commissions, you can buy time to make the work you really care about.
It was not evil, it was practical, and that is how many lines are crossed, not with a scream, but with a shrug.
Fine, but I need proof. I will not lie about anyone.
Of course, make them send you receipts. Treat it like research.
The first commission was about a man in the tech world. He had quietly pushed women out of projects, stolen code ideas, and built a reputation as a feminist ally while doing the exact opposite in private. At least that was the story in the long emails she received. Mara checked what she could, but there were limits. In the end, she built him out of second-hand paint and screenshots. The painting showed a man made of polished glass, full of cracks that other people had to hold together. People guessed his identity within hours of the piece going online. He lost clients, he got hate messages, and his name trended in angry threads. Mara watched uneasy. She told herself he deserved it if the stories were true. She also could not ignore how good it felt to see her work move the world in that way. Jonas called, sounding pleased.
This is bigger than heartbreak now. You are holding people accountable. This is justice.
The word justice sat strangely in her chest. Was this really justice, or was it very pretty public shaming? Her doubts were there, but the applause was louder. As her fame grew, the fan community started to shape itself into something more organized. Ray became one of the most active voices.
Send your stories. We protect each other here, no more silence.
She wrote posts like that under Mara's new work. People began to call themselves the Gallery, a small joke that did not feel so small. They treated Mara as if she were a priest of some new faith based on revenge and confession. Mara tried to ignore that part. She told herself she was just making paintings, other people could think what they wanted. Still, she noticed how her own feelings were changing. She started to see stories everywhere. On the train, when 2 people argued in low voices, she caught herself thinking about what that fight would look like on canvas. At night, when she closed her eyes, she did not see peace. She saw comment threads scrolling behind her eyelids. She wrote lists in a notebook, wounds on one side and possible images on the other. It was creative, and it was also slightly sick. She did not tell anyone that part. One evening, Ray came to the studio. Her hands shook as she held a folder of old photos.
I want to ask for something, but I am not sure if it is fair.
Mara put down her brush and gave her full attention.
I want you to paint my father.
The words landed heavily in the small room.
He hurt us for years. He always looked good in public, People called him a good man. No one believed me when I tried to tell them if you paint him the way he really is, maybe people will finally see.
Ray laid out the photos, a smiling man at birthdays, family trips, and holidays. On the surface, nothing looked wrong. The horror was in what the pictures did not show. Mara felt a cold wave run through her. She thought of her own father, distant but not cruel, and her own old drawings based on childhood nights she tried not to think about. She knew how much it meant to be believed.
If I do this, it will not be private anymore. People will argue about it. They will judge him, but they will also judge you. Are you ready for that?
I already live with their judgment. At least this way there is proof in pain.
Ray's eyes were steady, full of a pain that had long dried into something like stone. Mara agreed, because saying no felt like betrayal. As she worked on that painting, something inside her began to fray. She used the father's public smile as the base, then layered Ray's written memories into the colors. She saw her own fears in his face, fears of becoming someone who turned other people's stories into products. The canvas started to feel heavy. Some nights she sat in front of it and could not lift her hand. She began to have small flashes of sound in her head, crowds cheering, then turning, always turning. She realized she was not just painting villains, she was painting hunger, her own and everyone else's. While she struggled with the father painting, Jonas was planning something bigger.
We need a new show, something that sums up what you do, something that makes a statement. We could call it The Last Judgment.
He loved big titles. He said they helped with posters.
Bring all the revenge pieces together, the X's, the tech man, the new work, plus one big final piece. People will eat it up.
Those words made her skin crawl a little. People will eat it up. Was that what this was now, a meal of other people's shame to be consumed for fun? Mara sat alone in the studio after he left, surrounded by faces that were not really there. She thought of the first night at Ellie's show, of how it felt to watch her own pain under someone else's name. She thought about Ray and all the people in her messages begging to be seen. She realized she had become something strange, part healer, part executioner, and part ringmaster. That night, she made a decision. If she was going to do The Last Judgment, it would not be the show everyone expected. She went back to the father painting. Instead of finishing it as a pure attack, she changed it. She left his face half-formed, fading into the background. In the foreground, she painted a child's small shadow reaching toward a blank wall. She realized the painting was not about punishing him, it was about Ray's need to be believed. That shift mattered, even if no one could name it exactly. Then she began work on the central piece for the new show. She decided it would not be a portrait of a single villain. It would be a portrait of the whole machine they had all built together. She stretched the largest canvas she could fit in the space. Layer by layer, she added fragments from all her past works. Ellie's tired eyes, the glass man from the tech painting, the smiling mouth from Clean Break, the half-formed father, and many more. She broke them apart and recombined them so that you could not tell where one person ended and another person began. In the middle, almost hidden, she painted herself, not in a flattering way. Her own face was built from small strokes that matched the color of the crowds in old gallery photos. If you looked closely, you could see that she was made not only of her own pain, but of other people's applause. Around the edges she wrote short lines in thin paint, sentences taken from comments and messages. Things like "you saved me," things like "drag him," and things like "destroy her." She wrote them so faintly that you only noticed them when you stepped very close. The title of this piece was short. It said "Appetite." When Jonas saw it for the first time, he frowned.
It is strong, but people will ask, who is the villain here, and want a clear bad guy. They like that.
That is exactly the problem. They want simple villains, but they do not want to look at their own part in the show. This time the mirror is on all of us.
Jonas sighed, then nodded.
Fine, but do not complain when reviews call it uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable is honest. Word spread fast about the Last Judgment show. Fans expected a new round of public punishments. The gallery chat was full of guesses.
She will destroy that influencer next, I know it.
No, she will go after the famous critic, the one who supported Ellie. This will be huge.
Everyone wanted a new sacrifice. No one expected to be put on trial themselves. On opening night, the line was longer than ever. People dressed up for the occasion as if attending a ceremony. Ray was there near the front, her face tight with a mix of pride and fear. When the doors opened, visitors walked into a space arranged like a path. First came the older works, the X's, the Tech Man, and the early revenge pieces, all hung in a way that made you feel watched. Wall text talked about stories and power, but this time the language was sharper. Instead of just saying this person hurt someone, the labels asked small questions. Questions like who enjoys this story and who pays the price for it. People laughed less this time. Some still took photos, but their faces looked more serious. In the second room, Ray's father painting hung in a quiet corner. Ray stood in front of it, breathing slowly.
He looks so ordinary. That is what scares me.
Mara joined her for a moment.
You do not have to talk about it if you do not want to. This piece is for you first.
It is strange, it hurts, but I also feel lighter, because now the story is outside of me. It is not only in my head anymore.
Mara nodded, but inside she still felt the heavy weight of responsibility. She wondered how many people right now were seeing the painting as content first and pain second. The final room held the central piece, Appetite. Visitors stepped in and went quiet without knowing why. The painting pulled the eye, not in a flashy way, but with a slow, steady grab that did not let go. From a distance, it looked chaotic but balanced, a storm of faces and hands and colors. Up close, details started to emerge, familiar bits from past works, half-remembered shapes from posts and stories. Someone gasped when they found the tiny painted line that matched a comment they had written months ago.
Wait, that is my phrase. I wrote that under her last piece.
They stepped back, suddenly unsure how they felt about seeing their own words on the wall. Next to the painting, the wall text was different from the rest. It was not written like a normal description. It read more like a short confession and an accusation mixed together. It said this: I wanted justice, so I painted the people who hurt me. You wanted justice, so you cheered when their names spread. Then you asked me to paint your enemies too, people I had never met. We said it was healing. Maybe sometimes it was. But somewhere along the way, something changed. The pain turned into a show. The show needed new villains to stay interested. Ask yourself why you came here tonight. Did you come to understand someone's wound, or did you come to enjoy the cut? People read this and shifted on their feet. Some crossed their arms, a classic pose of defense. Others looked down at their phones as if they had just been caught doing something. Jonas watched the room from the side. He looked torn between pride and worry.
You are making them think that is good, but you are also poking the very people who buy your work.
If they only want me when I give them someone to destroy, then maybe they are not really my people.
His answer was a tired half smile because sums are simple, but people are not. Ray approached Mara later, her expression troubled.
I thought this show would be a big middle finger to everyone who hurt us, but it feels more like a mirror, and I am not sure I like what I see in it.
Same here. I did not like what I saw in myself either when I painted this. But I think that is the point.
Do you regret any of it?
Mara took her time before answering.
I regret the moments when I enjoyed the destruction more than the truth.
Ray looked at the big painting again, eyes tracing the hidden faces.
Maybe we needed this, not just another villain. Maybe we needed someone to say that our hunger for revenge is also part of the story.
Online, reactions were split. Some fans felt betrayed.
She sold out. She got soft. This is moralizing. I wanted fired, not therapy.
She was our voice, and now she is judging us. I am done.
Others felt something else, a slow kind of respect.
This is the first time I felt called out in a way that did not just shame me. It made me think about why I enjoy watching people fall.
Critics argued in long articles about whether Mara's new work was brave or manipulative. Illy wrote a half-hearted note on his own page, saying he was hurt by the personal attacks but glad that pain had led to important art. He still could not see his part clearly, and maybe he never would. Mara stepped back from social media for a while. She kept painting, but not with the same fever. Some commissions she turned down without explanation. Some stories she gently told people to keep for their own healing, not for the walls. She realized something heavy and simple. Revenge feels clean in your head. You imagine it like a straight line. They hurt me, I hurt them back, balance is restored. Real life is never that neat. There are always extra people in the blast, parents, partners, coworkers, and strangers who only know one side and join in because it feels good. Her art had not just punished those who hurt her. It had also given thousands of people a safe excuse to indulge their own taste for public cruelty. She had not forced anyone, but she had made it easier. In a quiet moment in the empty gallery after closing, Mara stood alone in front of Appetite.
I thought I was just painting villains, but really I was painting us.
Her voice echoed softly in the room. It was not a grand speech, just a small truth spoken out loud for herself. So let us come back to you for a minute. Remember the question at the start. If you could ruin the person who broke your heart and get applause for it, would you? Maybe your first answer was yes without thinking. It is natural, hurt wants payback. But now that you have walked through Mara's story, does your answer feel more complicated? Next time you see a stranger getting torn apart online in the name of justice, I want you to pause for just a second. Ask yourself a small but very honest question. Are you there because you care about the person who was hurt, or because the drama scratches an itch you do not like to admit you have? There is no clean hero in this story, not even Mara. There is also no pure villain, not even Ali, who did awful things but is still a human shaped by his own weak spots. We like stories where good and evil are clear teams with different uniforms. Real life is messier. Sometimes the victim discovers a taste for power. Sometimes the audience becomes the mob. Sometimes justice and entertainment get mixed until you cannot see where one ends and the other starts. If this makes you feel a little uncomfortable, that is not a bad sign. It means some part of you is awake and paying attention, not just eating the show. And maybe next time you are tempted to share a harsh post or cheer a public takedown, you will check your own appetite first. That small pause can be the difference between standing up for someone and just adding another stone to the pile. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end of this story. I know it was a heavy one, but if you are still here, it means you did not look away, and that matters. If this made you think about revenge, about art, or about the way we all watch other people's lives, please tap the like button. It helps more than you might guess. If you want to hear more stories like this on Gold and Thorns, where the drama pulls you in but there is always some hidden truth under the mess, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I would also love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what part of Mara's story hit you the hardest, and tell me if your own answer to that first question changed by the end. If you want to support this channel in a more direct way, you can use the QR code in the corner of the video or check the link in the description to send a small donation. It keeps these stories going. In the description you will also find links to other works from completely different series, with different moods and themes, so if you want to explore more, they are waiting for you there. For now, I will let you go, but I hope you carry a little piece of this story with you into the next scandal you see. Take care of your heart, be a little kinder with your judgments, and I hope to see you again in the next story on Gold and Thorns.